FortuneBuilders.tv.
Hey everyone, JD Asajan, and welcome to another episode of FortuneBuilders.tv. Today we're talking about pools. That's right. We had some questions come up on pools, and so I wanted to address some issues relating to pools and talk about what they mean to us as investors. And what we're going to do is we're going to use a case study from an actual property that we're working on right now in Southern California, San Diego, East County. This is a pretty amazing property. It's a high-end home, 5,500 square feet on 8 acres in East County, San Diego. And as you can see, I'm standing on the edge of the pool of this property. So we're going to talk about some general points relating to pools, and we're going to break it down. So a couple of things you want to think about and consider with pertaining to pools. What you want to look at when you're dealing with maintenance is, obviously, does the pool need work? And this pool, when we bought the property, was drained, and you can look at going a couple different routes. You have the ability to sometimes resurface and patch a pool, or you can completely replaster. And in this particular case, many times when a pool has been drained for a period of time, the plaster actually deteriorates. So if a pool is drained and it's been drained for a while, the likelihood of you needing to replaster that pool is probably going to be pretty high, because what keeps plaster in good shape, pool plaster, is the water. When there's no water, it deteriorates. Now, we could get by with patching this thing. If you drop down here and you look, you can start to poke around and you can see that it's popping right here, right? Now, we could go around and we could patch that everywhere and make it, okay, fill it with water, but what's going to happen in a very quick time frame if we just patch it is it's going to chip away again, and the person that spends their life savings on their dream home, who do you think they're going to call? So we're not going to do that here. We're going to actually replaster the entire pool, and the cost of replastering a pool, depending on the size, is going to be anywhere between like $4,000 and about $7,000 to replaster a pool. Now, that's not the only thing you need to consider. The other things that are important are the look of the pool, plaster being one component of that, but also you've got other things like tile and what they call coping, which is this piece right here. So this edge around the pool is coping. Now, it happens to look really dated right now on this pool. Part of that is because of the pool tile, the edge tile. And we're going to change the edge tile, and anytime you replaster a pool, you should really change the tile, because it certainly needs it here, and it's very easy to do when you replaster. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to replaster the entire pool, and we're going to change this tile. And what they do now, pretty common, is instead of a solid border, they actually do just tiles inlaid throughout, like turning them on diamond and just putting them as accents around the pool. It's a little less material, and it makes a very nice finished look. And what's going to happen when we do that is this coping is going to look a lot better when it's when the rest of the pool is replastered and the new tile goes up. So we're going to leave the coping. The other thing that you need to look at when you're dealing with pools is there's like a waterproofing piece that goes in on the edge here, and you got to look at if that needs to be redone here. And you can see it's kind of messed up. So yeah, it does. And that's what we're going to fix that. And then this, we got pool lights. Randy is pointing out things to me again. You got all kinds of things to worry about. Like when you got a pool drain like this, you got to check the lighting. One of the things with pools that I think really looks cool is at night, or when it's getting dark, when you can light the pool up. So you need to be able to have light, and so you check that when the pool's drained. So when you replaster a pool, you have to drain it anyways, and if it wasn't already drained, you check the lighting. So that's what's going to happen in this pool. The other things that we're dealing with here happens to be this ledger stone here that is falling off, partly because they didn't put it on right and they didn't waterproof it. So we have to actually take it off and then waterproof the back surface better properly and put it back on, because if not, it'll just fall off quickly. Now, this is a pretty unique pool, as you can see, because it's on a unique property. Most of the time, you're just going to have a regular in-ground pool when you buy a house that has a pool. You're not going to necessarily have this hot tub with overflowing water waterfall that we're going to have, but in this property it's a nice selling feature. So those are some things to consider when you're looking at pools. I talked about costs when it comes to replastering, and really what you need to be looking out for. What I'd like to do next is kind of go into our deal or no deal segment.
Deal or no deal?
In our deal or no deal segment is I'm going to talk to the point of whether you need a pool or whether you don't need a pool, and whether that makes it a deal or not. A few things to consider. Putting in a pool is expensive, and honestly it really doesn't increase the value of the home all that much. When I say all that much, you're probably talking sometimes $20,000 to, at the most, maybe $35,000 or $40,000 in terms of increased value to build a pool. And the cost of building a pool is probably going to start about $20,000 to put a pool in. I mean, you just don't have digging a hole and filling it with water. You got digging a hole, plastering, you got plumbing, you got the plumbing equipment, which happens to be over here. All those things cost money. So when it comes to installing a pool, in terms of what it'll add in value, you're not going to get a whole lot of money returned back. You're better off spending that money on the home and or adding like air conditioning if the house doesn't have air conditioning. Now the flip side of that is if you're dealing in a neighborhood where every single property has pools and all your comparables that you're going to be going up against for your buyer has a pool, well then that's something you need to consider, and are they going to pass on your property because it doesn't have one? And that's kind of what you need to look at in terms of deal or no deal on a property when it comes to a pool. But the bottom line is building a pool and the cost associated with it is never going to be money well spent on your property.
No deal.
Let's do a quick tip here because I'm thinking about that now. The quick tip I want to point out when it comes to pools is the option between resurfacing, meaning like patching the plaster, or replastering the whole thing together. And my advice to you on a real estate quick tip is when the pool has been drained and you buy a house, you're going to need to replaster it. Patching it will save you a couple of bucks, but at the end of the day, you'll spend a little bit more money to replaster it, but you'll have a better finished product. You'll be able to warranty the finished product by the person that does the plaster, and the person that buys the home is going to have that warranty, and they're not going to be calling you a couple months down the road when it chips off again. So the quick tip when it comes to pools is when it's been drained like this and the plaster is deteriorating, spend the extra money and replaster it because you're going to have a better finished product. It's going to make the house sell better, and you know, that's what it takes to build your reputation in this business. The last thing I'd like to remind everyone before we get to our thought of the day, our quote of the day, is that FortuneBuilders.tv is for you, the viewer. And I want to remind everyone to go to the page, go to the Suggest a Show segment on this page, on this site, and give us some feedback on what you want to learn more about. We'll read through those and we'll pick through and we'll decide what the upcoming shows will be based on. So remember, this is for your education, for your benefit, and we want to know what you want to learn more about. Before we leave, I want to give everyone the thought of the day.
Quote of the week. FortuneBuilders.tv